Being a parent is a tremendously rewarding experience, but it's not always easy. At times it can be demanding, frustrating and tiring. And we learn as we go, sometimes making mistakes. As parents, we have the important role of raising the next generation. Yet most of us begin our parenting careers unprepared for what lies ahead. The challenge for all of us is to raise healthy, happy children in a loving environment.
There's no single right way to be a parent, and there are many different views about how to raise our children. Ultimately, it's up to us, as parents, to decide what values, skills and behaviours we want to encourage in our children, and to develop our own approach to discipline.
Positive parenting is an approach to raising children that emphasises the positive. It aims to help them communicate, to better manage their feelings, to become independent and to help them solve problems for themselves. And at the same time, it shares some very useful skills to help us with the task of raising our children.
It relies on good communication and the use of positive attention as a way to encourage children to develop the skills they need to do well in life. Children who grow up with positive parenting are much more likely to get on well with others and to feel good about themselves. The other plus is that they're much less likely to develop behavioural or emotional problems.
There are 5 key aspects to positive parenting: ensuring a safe, engaging environment, creating a positive learning environment, using assertive discipline, having realistic expectations, and taking care of yourself as a parent.
The first is to ensure an engaging, busy environment for children that provides them with plenty of opportunities to explore, to discover and to experiment. Having lots of interesting things to do will stimulate your child's curiosity as well as their language and intellectual development. It will also keep your child occupied and will reduce misbehaviour.
A good way to help prevent hassles with children is to make your home a safer place. Try to get rid of no-go areas and no-touch areas so you're not saying no all the time. For example, put dangerous things out of reach. The same goes for valuables and fragile things. If possible, fit child-resistant catches to drawers and cupboards. Use barriers to keep children out of unsafe areas and take precautions with specific danger spots throughout the house. As your child grows older and they learn what they can and can't do, this task becomes easier.
Having a safe, secure, predictable environment also means that parents can be more relaxed about parenting. If your home is basically safe, you won't have to be constantly telling your child not to do things. Your child will be able to explore and keep themselves busy. Adequate supervision of children really means knowing where they are, who they're with and what they're doing at all times.
Want me to have a look at it?
That Aborigines.
Oh, it looks like an Aboriginal painting.
The second part of positive parenting involves creating a positive learning environment. Parents need to be available to their children. This doesn't mean being with them all the time, but it means when children approach us, want to show us something, or want to share something with us, or they want our help, that we're available and we're there for them. When your child approaches you, stop what you're doing and spend some time with them if you can. In this way, children learn that their world is secure, it's predictable, and that their parents are available to them when they need help or want someone to listen.
I'm stuck.
Which one have you got a problem with?
Being positive and encouraging also involves tuning into your child's desirable behaviour. When you see something happening that you like, pay attention to it.
Thanks. That's very helpful that you're being today.
Show your child that you value what they're doing and they're more likely to do it again in the future. The third aspect involves using assertive discipline.
Cameron, please stop bouncing the ball in the house. If you want to play with it, take it outside.
Assertive discipline really means being consistent, being decisive, responding quickly when your child is misbehaving and dealing with the behaviour in an acceptable way.
Cameron, You haven't done as I asked. Now I'm going to take the ball off you and put it away for 10 minutes.
You can value your child's individuality and still expect them to learn limits and behave in reasonable ways, and this is where assertive discipline is important.
The fourth aspect of positive parenting involves having realistic expectations.
Children need to be developmentally ready to master the skills they need to learn, such as using the toilet, feeding themselves, dressing themselves, and becoming more independent. So it's important that as parents we have reasonable expectations of what our children are capable of doing at any point in time. Remember, all children are individuals and they develop at their own rate.
There can be other problems when we expect children to be perfect. No child is going to be good all the time, and we can't expect them to be.
It's also important for parents to have realistic expectations of themselves. It's fine to want to be a good parent, but to aim to be a perfect one is not realistic. It's setting oneself up for disappointment, frustration, and for lots of hassles with our children. So be realistic. Every parent makes mistakes. Most mistakes are minor, and most people have to learn on the job through trial and error. The final aspect of positive parenting is taking care of yourself. Parenting is much easier when our own needs are being met. As adults, we have needs for intimacy, for companionship, for privacy, and for a break from children. If those needs are not being met, it's much more difficult to be patient, to be consistent, and to be available to our children.
To summarise part one, we've just seen the main aspects of positive parenting. Ensuring a safe, engaging environment. Creating a positive learning environment. Using assertive discipline, having realistic expectations, and taking care of yourself as a parent. In the next section, we'll look at child behaviour and discuss some of the reasons children behave the way they do. In part two, we look at some of the causes of child behaviour problems. These include our children's genetic makeup, the family environment, and influences from the wider community around them. We also look at monitoring, or how to keep track of children's behaviour. All children inherit a unique genetic makeup. Along with physical features like the colour of their eyes and skin, children may also inherit their temperament from their parents.
Some children are very sociable and outgoing and like to talk a lot. Others are more active, they're on the go, they're very busy and have a high activity level. And others are more emotional and find it hard to accept change. Differences in temperament in the early years can be related to whether or not children go on to develop behavioural or emotional problems. However, it's important to remember one thing. Not all difficult babies develop problem behaviour, and some easy babies do. Obviously, there are other things that we need to take into account. Sometimes children's health can affect how they behave. They may seem to be misbehaving or not doing as they're told, when actually they may not be able to hear properly when we ask them to do something. They may have hearing problems or ear infections. If children aren't eating well, they may not have the energy to listen, learn, and do as they're told. We also need to watch for illnesses. Children may act differently and seem more difficult when they're sick.
As parents, we can't change our children's genetic makeup. However, we do have some control over what happens in our families. There are important things that happen in homes that can influence whether or not children develop behaviour problems. In trying to understand children's behaviour, it's helpful to have some understanding about how they learn. This can be useful in deciding how to deal with problem behaviour.
Many behaviour difficulties in children relate to the day-to-day interactions between them, their parents and their siblings. There are several ways that children can learn misbehaviour. The first is accidental rewards.
An accidental reward can happen when children get what they want by misbehaving.
No. Through this aisle, one go, James.
Chocolate.
No.
Yes.
No chocolate. Put it
I
back.
want it. Mom, can I get this?
For example, buying a toy for a child who's nagging during a shopping trip.
Too much to do today, James. We're doing groceries. We are not doing toys.
But
I don't care.
want it.
No.
Yes.
Oh, all right. Good heavens, just stop the whinging, all right?
When behaviour like this gets results, it's more likely to happen again.
Yes.
Another accidental reward can be attention. If we pay attention to behaviour like this, giving our attention can encourage it. Or if we laugh or smile at what they do, we may accidentally give our child a message that the behaviour is funny and it's okay, when really it's not.
What we have to ask ourselves is how much attention do our children get for behaviour that we don't like happening?
Mum, can I have lolly?
A second cause of behaviour problems is what we call the escalation trap. This is a situation where a child wants something, and if they're being ignored, they learn to turn up the volume. They become more insistent, demanding and louder. And right at the point when they're at their worst, they've become really upset and angry, a parent perhaps says, "Okay, have it, just take it, but just stop that yelling." Now, what is the child learning in that situation? It's when they don't get what they want, they need to escalate to get what they want.
Parents can also be caught in the escalation trap. Here's how it works. Say a parent asks their children to turn off the television.
It's 5 o'clock, your show's over, it's time for your shower now, guys.
The children refuse.
Boys, I said it's 5 o'clock, the music's playing, it's time for your shower now.
The parent gets louder and may even threaten them.
I said it's 5 o'clock, now go and have your shower now.
And when the parent is well and truly angry, the children give in.
So what is the parent learning in that situation? Hey, the only way I can get my child to cooperate is to yell and shout at them.
Children can learn to misbehave because parents don't pay enough attention to them when they're behaving well.
Mum, look what I've done. I've swept up all of these leaves.
Oh, love, this is the inside broom. This is what we use for the wooden floors on the inside, not for the pavers. Look, this is the straw one that we use for the pavers on the outside for the leaves, not this one. Look at it.
Oh, sorry.
So a child can learn that the only way to get some attention or to get a reaction is to misbehave.
Children also learn a great deal about their world and how to behave through watching others.
There are many different sorts of behaviours that children can pick up by watching others, swearing, losing your temper, hitting and hurting, yelling and screaming, or how to react when something's scary or frightening around you. For example, if a child hears mum and dad yell and shout and then get their own way through that tactic, what is the child learning? They're learning, hey, this works. This is a strategy that I can use to get my own way. And so what you often find in families where there are adults who yell and shout a lot, there's often similar behaviour in their children. The way we give instructions to children can also influence their behaviour. For example, sometimes we may simply give too many instructions. Every time an instruction is given, there's an opportunity for children to be disobedient. Also, if instructions are given so quickly the child doesn't have a chance to follow them or can't remember them all, then problems occur.
Sometimes the opposite can cause a problem when our children receive too few instructions.
Okay, Bridge, quick, honey, you've got to pack your stuff up. We've got to get to Nan's. I'll go and load the car. Quickly, get your stuff together.
If we're not clear about what we expect, it's harder for them to learn what they have to do.
Okay, Bridge. Oh, look at this mess. We're not going for 6 months, we're going for one night. Now all you need is a toothbrush, your pyjamas, and you can take one special toy. Now quickly. Bridget, honey, can you help Mum just take that up the stairs for me?
We can also expect too much of children when we give them instructions that are too hard.
Another reason children can have problems is if instructions are poorly timed. For example, if a child is watching their favourite TV program or in the middle of a game, that's probably not a good time to ask them to do something that could actually wait until later.
Jonathan, I'd like you to tidy up your room now, please.
TV's not finished yet.
We can also be too vague.
Oh, Ellie, don't be silly.
Such a vague instruction doesn't tell the child what to stop doing, nor does it tell the child what's appropriate. There's a similar problem if we phrase an instruction as a question.
For example, if you say, "Would you like to come and have a bath now, dear?" That's expressing an instruction as a question. You need to be prepared in that situation for your child to say, "No thanks, Mum." Sometimes our body language can give a message that's different from the instruction we're giving. For example, if we tell a child to stop doing something, but at the same time we're laughing at what they're doing, the child is getting a very mixed message. Are they supposed to stop or not?
I've had enough.
Also, if we give instructions that we call long-distance instructions, that is, the parent is just too far away from the child, they're less likely to do as they've been asked, particularly if the instruction is shouted from way over the other side of the room or from another room.
The event in my life is stressful at the moment.
Emotional messages mean that we focus on the child being a problem rather than the child's behaviour.
For God's sakes, Angus. Why don't you scream and shout and show off again? Hey, there's a little audience of kids here. They're all going to laugh at you.
Name-calling, abuse or trying to make our children feel guilty can make them resentful and uncooperative.
I'm taking the cars, they're going in the bin, both of you, go in your rooms.
One of the most important reasons that children develop difficult behaviour is the way in which parents use discipline. If parents punish their children without using strategies to encourage desirable behaviour, the relationship between parents and children can really suffer, and children's behaviour can get worse. Some kinds of punishment can actually cause other problems to develop. For example, shouting and yelling at children frequently leads to arguments and an escalation of behaviour. Smacking or spanking your child can also teach them to be aggressive.
Threatening a consequence and not following through is a particular problem.
That's it, Ellie. I'm not going to tell you again. If you don't stop blowing those bubbles, I'm going to take that drink away.
If there are no backup consequences, children will often learn to ignore a parent's request. Another problem is when we deal with misbehaviour when we're angry. There's always a risk of losing control and hurting a child.
Parents can also wait too long before they do something about a problem. They may use discipline at the last minute as a response to a crisis.
Sometimes parents wait until their child's behaviour has become intolerable before doing something about it. Then we can overreact with the risk of hurting our child. A final problem is being inconsistent. For example, when instructions or rules are not backed up or enforced, or when parents contradict each other in front of their children.
For you to keep saying, oh, well, you just have to be firmer with them.
When things are inconsistent and unpredictable, children's behaviour is often more difficult to manage.
I can't believe this.
It's also important to remember that our own beliefs, attitudes and expectations of children can influence our parenting.
Yes, it's been one of those days for me too. No, Bridget's been in trouble in preschool again. No, just not following anything the teacher has to say. She's been doing that for weeks. No, I'm not worried about it. I think it's just a phase. Most kids do it, don't they?
When in fact, it's the sort of behaviour that needs to be dealt with so it doesn't turn into a more difficult problem later on.
Guys, you're not ready. You've done it again. You do it deliberately every single time. I'm going to be late. Look, all the time, deliberately. Well, thank you very much.
This can create a lot of resentment and lead us as parents to overreact in a situation we might otherwise have dealt with more calmly. It may also stop parents from looking at how their own actions contribute to problem behaviour and what the child needs to be taught.
Everyone else seems to be able to cope. I don't understand how they do it. How come I'm such a hopeless parent? I can't seem to get anything right as a parent. No matter what I do, it's always wrong.
This can make parents feel guilty and depressed. And of course, when you're feeling that way, it's much more difficult to be patient, calm and consistent with your child. Children need a warm, loving, caring environment. However, some children grow up in family situations where there's a lot of tension and fighting between their mum and dad. When children experience this, it can be distressing for them and it can definitely influence their behaviour. They can become more aggressive, more anxious or even more depressed.
How parents feel can also influence children's behaviour. If a parent is feeling depressed, exhausted, angry, anxious or upset, it's much more difficult to be calm, patient, consistent and relaxed about parenting.
Stress is part of everyday life. All of us have to deal with problems from time to time, but children need routine and stress in the family can disrupt normal routines. If you have serious or long-standing problems with feelings, stress or relationships, do something about it and be prepared to seek professional advice.
All influences on children's behaviour don't happen in the home. Their relationship with friends, difficulties with learning or school in general can also cause problem behaviour. There's also what they read, see or hear in the media, and that includes television, movies and what they access on computers. It's up to us as parents to monitor what they're reading and watching.
Now that you've looked at possible causes of behaviour problems, it's time to think about goals for change in both your own and your child's behaviour.
Choose only 1 or 2 problems to work on at any one time. State goals positively so that they'll tell you what you want your child to do. For example, if your child runs away during shopping trips, set a goal for your child to walk with you in the shops. Make sure that your goals are reasonable and achievable. Before you start a new parenting plan, keep track of the behaviour you want to change.
One way to keep track involves keeping a diary, recording when the problem occurred, what happened just before the problem, in other words, what was the trigger to the problem, and what happened afterwards. How did you deal with the problem? Another way of keeping track is to record how often a behaviour occurs. This simply means counting the number of times a behaviour happens. You can record it on a chart or a tally sheet like this. You can put the information on a graph to keep track of your child's progress. Keep track like this for a week or so before you start a new parenting plan. And remember to continue to keep track once you've started the plan. This will help you notice any improvements and will keep you motivated to persist with the strategy.
As well as how to keep track of your child's behaviour, the section we've just seen looked at some of the causes of child behaviour problems. We saw that there are many influences on children's behaviour, including their genetic makeup, the family environment and community influences. In part 3, we look at how to develop positive relationships with our children and strategies we can use to encourage behaviour we like. There are also useful tips on how to help our children learn new skills and behaviours.
Now that we've had a chance to look at things that can cause children's behaviour difficulties, let's now turn to what we can do to prevent problems. Perhaps the most important thing that we should look at first of all is how to promote a positive relationship with your child.
It takes time to develop a caring relationship with your child. It may surprise some parents, but spending frequent, small amounts of time together can be more beneficial than less frequent, longer periods of time. The basic idea is to spend anything from 30 seconds to a couple of minutes of quality time with your child. Do this as often as you can.
Time that's special to your child is often when they approach you to show you something, to ask you a question, or to involve you in their activity. When this happens and you're not occupied with something important, stop what you're doing and make yourself available. If you're busy, try to plan spending some time with your child as soon as you can. Talking to your child is also really important. It helps them develop their language, it teaches them conversational skills and social skills, and enhances their self-esteem.
Another way of showing children that you're interested and you care is to give them plenty of physical affection, tickling, hugging, kissing and touching. This will help your child feel loved, secure and comfortable about giving and receiving affection with people they're close to and care about.
One important way of encouraging desirable behaviour is to praise children. This works best when you take notice of times when your child is doing the things that you would like to see more often.
Oh, Bridget, you've set the table for me and I didn't even have to ask you. Thank you, darling. Good job.
Praise involves commenting on or describing what you actually see.
Ha ha, tomorrow I get to go to a birthday party and you don't.
Renil, you're really good for ignoring Nahil's teasing. Thank you for being so grown up.
Praise works best when you're clear and specific. Describe exactly what your child has done that you like. Be enthusiastic and sincere and mean what you say.
There are many ways of giving attention. A smile, a wink, a thumbs up sign, even just watching. These are all forms of attention children really enjoy and can encourage desirable behaviour.
You can encourage independent play by providing your child with plenty of interesting and engaging activities to keep them busy at home and when you're out. Busy children are much less likely to be bored and disruptive. The skills, behaviours and values you wish to encourage in your child is the choice of every individual parent. However, it may be helpful to have in mind some of the skills that encourage children to be independent and to get along with others. These skills fall into 4 main categories. Communication, how to share ideas, ask for help and cooperate with others. How to manage and express feelings without hurting others. How to be independent by keeping busy without always needing attention and learning to do things for themselves. And how to solve problems for themselves by showing an interest, being curious and asking questions about everyday things.
Children can learn a lot through watching, so show your child how to do things and set a good example.
Would you like to put on yourself today?
Yes.
All right, you're going to watch how I do it. Look.
If you want to teach your child a new skill or behaviour, let them watch and let them imitate what you do. Provide praise and encouragement for their efforts and achievements.
The sun won't burn you today, will it?
No, it sure won't.
Yeah, good on you covering it all up.
Another way of helping our children learn is what we call incidental teaching. When your child approaches you to ask a question or they want to show you something, stop what you're doing and pay attention.
Mum, can you help me find where this goes?
Where that one goes. Have you tried?
Yeah, I've tried everywhere.
Have you looked at the box?
Instead of just giving the answer, try to help your child figure it out for themselves by giving a hint that helps them solve the problem.
Have you looked at the box?
Oh, no.
Pick up the box and have a look at the picture.
It's got a brown
We'll see how he's got a brown shirt. So where's the boy with the brown shirt go? Right, we'll try putting him in there. What do you think?
Yeah.
There we go.
And after they've solved the problem, praise your child, perhaps by repeating back what they've just done.
Oh, well done, Olivia. Good girl. You figured that out all by yourself.
Oh, thanks, Mum.
Good work. Excellent.
This should be fun and enjoyable. If your child can't come up with the answer, give it to them. Don't push the issue. There's always plenty of opportunities for incidental teaching.
Ask, say, do is a useful way to help your child learn to do things for themselves, such as dressing, brushing teeth, getting ready to go out, and getting ready for bed. When a task is long and difficult, break it down into steps and teach these steps one at a time.
The first part of Ask, Say, Do is the ask part. This simply involves asking your child what the first step is.
Linda, what's the first thing we do when we brush your teeth?
I don't know.
The second part is the say part. If your child can't tell you the answer, simply tell them what it is they have to do.
Well, how about we put some toothpaste on the brush?
The third part is the do part. If your child can't do something on their own, help them to do it.
You're having a bit of trouble?
Yes.
All right, but what I usually do is I put my fingers right up the top here.
Guide them with your hand through the motions of what it is they have to do and gradually reduce your support as the child starts to master the skill.
Back part's there. Do you want to try it yourself?
Ask, say, do works best when you praise and encourage your child as they master each of the steps. A good way to do that is to describe what they've just accomplished. Repeat the process for each step, and as your child becomes more accomplished, you can praise less often.
Perfect, well done. Good on you.
Another useful way of encouraging children to learn new skills and behaviours is what we call a behaviour chart. A behaviour chart involves having some stamps, stars, stickers or smiley faces as a way of giving your child encouragement for their efforts.
Okay.
The chart is recognition of the effort they've put in, and it helps your child feel good about what they've done. Often the chart is reward enough, but a behaviour chart can also be backed up. Children can learn that by filling their chart, they can earn a bigger backup reward. The ideal sorts of rewards for a behaviour chart are things like family activities, something the child enjoys doing, such as a bike ride, baking a cake with mum, having dad read an extra story, something fun, something they like to do.
Let's practice that. How about you ask me if we can go to the park, but use a pleasant voice, okay?
Mum, can we go down to the park?
That's lovely. Well done. Here you are. You can have a smiley face because you used your pleasant voice.
Once a child has learned the new skill or behaviour, the chart can be phased out. Here are a few guidelines to make them work well. Describe the behaviour that will earn a star. Where possible, state it positively. For example, staying in bed rather than not getting out of bed. Explain exactly when and how often your child will receive a star. Decide on a goal that's achievable and a reward your child can earn after earning a set number of stars. Aim for an easy first goal so that the child has a number of successes. Then you can make it harder to achieve. Decide on and explain the consequences for breaking a rule. Praise your child each time they earn a star and give the reward if they reach their goal. If your child doesn't reach the goal, don't criticise them or take away stars they've already earned. When the child is reaching their goal regularly, start to phase out rewards by making them harder to achieve. For example, extend how long your child needs to behave well before they can earn a reward. Gradually phase out the chart and reward them every now and then. Continue to praise your child for behaving well.
With Harry McCleary from Donaldson's Dairy.
The strategies we've just seen are spending quality time with your child, talking to your child, showing affection, praising your child, paying attention to your child, setting a good example, incidental teaching, the ask, say, do method of teaching new skills, and how to use a behaviour chart. You may like to choose one or two strategies to try out at home. Remember to keep track of how it goes. In the next section, we look at a variety of strategies for managing misbehaviour.
There's more to positive parenting than just encouraging desirable behaviour. All children need to learn how to cope with frustration and to accept limits. Children learn self-control better when their parents act immediately, consistently and decisively when difficult behaviour occurs.
All children need to learn what's expected of them and how to behave. Having a few, maybe 4 or 5 basic house rules can be helpful. When your child is old enough, involve them in helping to set the family rules.
On my own yard.
That's right. That's very good.
Rules work best when they're fair, easy to understand, and you're able to back them up consistently. Rules should tell children what to do rather than what not to do. For example, instead of saying, don't run around the house, say, walk in the house. Directed discussion is a useful strategy to help children learn to follow basic house rules. We use it when they break the rules. It involves telling your child the problem, explaining why it's a problem, getting your child to suggest what they should have done instead, and then getting them to practice what they should do.
Reneel, stop running. You might break something. What is our rule about moving through the house?
Well, we walk in the house.
That's right, we walk through the house. Now go back to the door and show me.
Sure, Mum.
Thank you for showing me how you walk through the house.
Planned ignoring involves deliberately paying no attention to your child when a minor problem behaviour occurs. It's particularly useful in situations where you suspect your child is misbehaving to try to get an audience, to get a reaction. Things such as using a silly voice, using a whining voice or pulling faces. There are many minor annoying behaviours that are all best dealt with by simply ignoring them. While you ignore the problem behaviour, remember to pay attention to the good behaviour.
When you ignore a behaviour, make sure you don't talk to or look at your child. Be prepared to withhold your attention and not to react for as long as the problem lasts. When the problem stops and your child behaves well, praise them and give them attention.
Sometimes when you ignore the behaviour may get worse before it gets better. But what you need to remember in this situation is to simply persist. Eventually your child will learn that this behaviour no longer gets a reaction. The way we give instructions can also influence whether children cooperate or not. And there are several important points to remember that will help you give instructions that will be effective.
Ellie, stop doing gymnastics in the house. If you would like to do gymnastics, you need to go downstairs.
Where possible, wait for the right moment, perhaps when your child has finished an activity. This will increase cooperation. It's important to give children instructions that are clear and direct. And when you give an instruction, make sure you're prepared to back it up.
In the house.
When you want your child to do something, follow these steps. Stop what you're doing and move to within an arm's length of your child. Bend down to their eye level and use their name. Be specific and tell your child exactly what you want them to do. Wait and give them time to cooperate. Around 5 seconds is enough. Stay close and watch your child. If they cooperate, praise them for doing what you asked. If your child doesn't follow a rule or instruction, choose a consequence that fits the problem.
Ellie, please move away from the TV. You're sitting too close.
A logical consequence is best used for mild problems that don't happen too often.
Ellie, you haven't done as I've asked, so the TV is going to go off for 5 minutes.
Be prepared to take away the activity or toy that's at the centre of the problem and explain why you're doing it.
If you're using a logical consequence, act as soon as the problem occurs.
Boys, you're not taking turns like I asked you to, so the computer's going off for 5 minutes.
Don't wait for the problem to happen 4 or 5 times before you do anything about it.
Come on, out you go.
Keep to the agreement, and when the time period is up, return the activity so your child has a chance to do the right thing in the same situation.
Logical consequences work best when they're brief. 5 to 30 minutes is enough for the first time a problem occurs. Take the activity away for a longer time if the problem happens again on the same day.
Quiet time is an effective way of helping children learn acceptable behaviour.
James, I asked you to stop banging those blocks while I was on the phone. You kept banging the blocks. You need to go to quiet time now. Come on, please.
Quiet time really is an alternative for many parents to yelling, shouting or smacking their children when they're not cooperating.
Now, you're going to be staying in quiet time for 3 minutes.
What's involved is that you either remove the child to the edge of the activity as a consequence for not cooperating, or you ask them to sit in a particular spot in the same room where the problem occurred. You can ask older children to sit on the floor or on a chair for a couple of minutes. A toddler's cot or playpen can be used as the quiet place from the age of about 18 months onwards.
When you see problem behaviour, act quickly. Get close, gain your child's attention and tell them exactly what to do. If the problem behaviour stops, praise your child for doing as you asked. If it continues, tell your child what they've done wrong and that the consequence is quiet time. When you take your child to quiet time, ignore protests, don't argue or nag, and don't debate the point. Tell your child they must be quiet in quiet time for a set period, and when the time's up, allow them to rejoin the activity and praise them as soon as they behave well. Short periods of quiet time work best. Try 1 minute of quiet for 2-year-olds, 2 minutes for 3 to 5-year-olds, and no more than 5 minutes for children aged between 5 and 10 years.
Remember, it's very important that children don't receive any attention in quiet time. If they're not sitting quietly and therefore not following the rules of quiet time, take them to time out as a backup.
James, you haven't been quiet in quiet time. Now it's time to go to time out. You going to come on your own or do you want Mummy to help you?
Go go on my own.
Timeout involves removing your child from the situation where the problem is occurring for a short period of time. It can be used as a backup to quiet time if your child is not sitting quietly. Timeout can also be used as a consequence for something more serious, like a temper tantrum or aggressive behaviour that involves hurting others. Timeout really is a positive strategy. It has the advantage of helping children learn self-control, to calm down and to learn acceptable alternative behaviour. Another advantage is that it requires us, the parent, to remain calm, and it gives everyone a chance to calm down.
The place you use for timeout is important. It should be uninteresting, so your child's bedroom is probably not the best place. It should be safe, well lit and well ventilated. And you should try to prepare the room before you need it.
Make sure that you put away anything that might be dangerous or that could hurt your child. Then explain the routine. Explain what behaviours will earn time out and walk your child through each of the steps.
Before you start using time out, prepare your child. Choose a time for a meeting when the child is not having a behaviour problem and explain the steps of the time out routine. Check that your child understands the routine and that they need to be quiet before they can come out of timeout. Act quickly when a problem occurs. Get close and gain your child's attention. Tell them what to stop doing and what to do instead. If your child cooperates, then you praise them for doing as you asked. If your child doesn't cooperate, tell them the problem and the consequence, such as, "You have not done as I asked, now you must go to timeout." Take your child to timeout straight away. Try to remain calm but firm. If your child is struggling or resisting, pick them up and carry them.
As you put your child in the timeout area, remind them of the rules. That is, they need to be quiet for the set time before they can come out.
James, you need to be quiet for 3 minutes in timeout.
Leave the door open. If your child tries to run away, you may choose to close the door or calmly take them back until they have been quiet for the set time. When your child is in timeout, ignore all misbehaviour. You've got to be prepared for the storm. It may include kicking or yelling or calling out, but you need to persist. If your child gets a lot of attention or they get out of timeout when they've been misbehaving, then they're more likely to play up and to be noisy next time they have to go into timeout.
Okay, James, you've been quiet for 3 minutes in timeout. You can come and play with your blocks now. Come on.
After timeout is over, try to involve your child in another activity. And when you see them behaving well, praise and encourage them.
Oh, James, what a great building. Look at the way you've got that balanced. That is really good. Well done. I love that. That's a good, tall building.
If the problem occurs again, be prepared to repeat the timeout routine.
When you're using timeout, it's important to keep track of how often you use it. Write down each time you put your child in timeout and how long it takes before they're quiet. What you should find is that you need to use timeout less and less often over the first couple of weeks. On the first day, your child may need to go into timeout several times. But by the end of the first week, you should see a marked reduction in how often they need to go into timeout. If problems are still persisting after the second week of using timeout, then be prepared to seek professional advice.
We've just seen a variety of strategies for managing misbehaviour. We saw how to set ground rules and how to use directed discussion to deal with rule breaking, how to deal with some behaviour problems by ignoring them, how to give clear instructions to a child. And we explained the strategies of logical consequences, quiet time and time out. Choose the strategies you'd like to use with your family and keep track of how it goes. Finally, here is a series of family survival tips you might find useful.
It's easier to look after your child's needs if you also look after your own. Here are some ideas that can help make parenting easier.
The first is the idea of working as a team. Parenting is a much easier job if the adults who are involved in the care of a child support one another and basically agree on methods of discipline. Talk to each other about any disagreement you may have on how to handle your child's behaviour.
The second idea is to avoid having heated arguments in front of your children. Children are very sensitive to adult conflict, especially if it is about them.
I can't believe this. I mean, you are saying this is basically, it's my fault.
So the idea is, if there's conflict between adults and you disagree strongly about something, don't argue in front of your child. It's better to talk about these things when children are not around. However, it is helpful for children to see parents discussing and resolving disagreements in a positive manner. Another important idea is getting support for your parenting. Everyone needs support in raising their children. Partners, friends, grandparents, neighbours, these are all possible sources of support to discuss and share your ideas about parenting. Having the support available is really helpful, particularly at times of stress.
A final survival strategy is to have a break. It's perfectly healthy and normal for parents to feel as though they need some time away from their children. Providing you give plenty of positive attention and have quality time with your children, it won't harm a child to leave them with someone else now and then.
We hope that you found this information about positive parenting useful in undertaking the most important and rewarding job there is, raising our next generation.